Good morning, 8th graders. Today we are going to be working on lesson 2.4, solving equations with variables on both sides. So by the end of this lesson and the next lesson, you should be able to solve equations with variables on both sides. All this really means is that sometimes they're a little bit messier and we need to sort through the mess. It's nothing new. I'm just showing you what happens if it's not just a nice equation with your variables only on one side. Sometimes we have to clean up a little bit before we can solve. So some equations, like for example, example 1, 8 plus 4d equals 5d, have variables on each side of the equal sign. Okay, we can see that we have 4d and 5d, and they're on each side of the equal sign. So to solve, we use the properties of equality to write an equivalent equation with the variables on one side of the equal sign, then solve. Okay, what does that mean? That means that we need to, in order to solve for the variable, we need to make sure every coefficient with the variable is all on one side. So back to the same equation, if we have 8 plus 4d equals 5d, we need all of the d's to be on one side of the equal sign. Okay, so if we say the d's stand for dogs or DVDs, we need all the dogs to be on one side so we can solve for d. So what they did here is you can move either thing that you want. In this case, it would be easiest just to move this 4d over here. So I see that the 4d is being added. So I'm going to do the opposite and subtract. Subtract 4d to move that over here. So I'm left with 8 on this side. And 5d minus 4d was 1d, or just d. In this case, d equals 8. I didn't even actually have to solve anything. I just moved stuff around. Now, to check my answer, I can take this 8 for d and plug it in. So 8 plus 4d, so 8 plus 4 times d is 8, equals 40. And I know that 5 times 8 is 40, so it checks out. 40 equals 40. Let's try another one. That was so fun. Okay, let's look at example 2. Solve 6n minus 1 equals 4n minus 5. This is a little bit harder. So I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to rewrite it myself. Minus 5. Okay. Now, I'm also going to draw a line here in a different color so you can see. In order to solve, I need all my letters on one side, all my coefficients here, and on one, and all my numbers on the other. So now I need to do two moves. So you could do whatever you want. I see that this is a minus, and I'm just going to add 1 to both sides. Okay, they flipped up the order. It doesn't matter, just as long as you're using the inverse correctly. So whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So now on this side, I have left 6n equals 4n. Now, I have a minus 5 plus 1. A couple different things that you can look at that as. I could always go like this. I could make my minus a plus negative. Or I could just notice, okay, minus 5, negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Either way. Okay. Now, I need to move this guy back over here. I need to move him over so that he's with all of his other friends with the N for nutcrackers. He's with all the nutcrackers. So this is a positive 4n. I'm going to do the opposite and subtract 4n. I still don't know what n stands for, and that's okay. So 6 nutcrackers minus 4 nutcrackers equals 2 nutcrackers on that side. Equals, and what do I have left here? Negative 4. All right, now I can solve for n. 2 is being multiplied times n, so I'm going to do the opposite and divide. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So n equals negative 2. And I can see they got the same answer. So they moved the 4n first. And that's totally okay. You can do that as well. And I can check my answer by plugging that in. 6 times negative 2 minus negative 1 is negative 13. Let's see that side. 4 times negative 2 minus 5, also negative 13. Negative 13 equals negative 13. And it checks out. Ooh. All right. Before we go on to some bigger numbers, using some bigger numbers, and I want to make sure that you have this down first. So let's pause now and do the got it A and B at the bottom of 146. If you're not quite ready to do them on your own, that's totally okay. I'm willing to go through them with you. But let's make sure that you know how to do solve with variables on both sides of the equation before we add some tougher problems. So do A and B on your own. When you're done, please raise your hand. I'll check it, give you a sticker, and then give you some practice problems. Good luck, 8th grade.